What's up, everyone? This is Isaac from Hunger Smash Fitness. Just wanted to do a video today on breathing during exercise. So I've seen a couple people make some comments about how they hold their breath the entire time throughout a lift. So if they're doing 3, 4, 5 reps of the squat or deadlift or something like that, they hold their breath for the entire time. If that works for you at lighter weight, it's not as big a deal necessarily, but especially as you're going up in weight, putting the body under increased stresses and increased pressures and everything else, your abdominal pressure goes up, everything else. It's not recommended. If you're doing multiple reps, I would highly recommend that you breathe each rep. So if you're gonna do a deadlift, you're gonna pull it, go to the top, go back down, breathe out, reset, and go again. If you're part of the problem with that is it's going to put you at increased risk of injury. If you're just trying to blast through the reps as fast as you can, holding your breath the entire time, I can almost guarantee that your form is going to break down and it's going to put you at increased risk of injury. If you're able to do it with good form, then it's not necessarily as big a deal, like I said. But yeah, so one of the big things though is if you're holding your breath through the entire movement, for one thing, you're going to be at increased risk of passing out. That's going to be the most obvious, I'd say. So with the Valsalva maneuver, the breathing in, holding, bracing, using that internal pressure to help yourself with the lift, that is a technique. It is a technique that I use. It's a technique that most lifters use. Most experienced lifters will use this technique called the Valsalva. Now, there's some downsides to it, and I think I did one video on this already, but there's some downsides to the Valsalva and everything else. If you have specific health conditions, it's recommended not to do it. If you have specific things, it's recommended not to do the Valsalva maneuver, or to be mindful of it, at least be cautious with it. But as long as you're not at risk of injury or anything like that, the Valsalva maneuver should be fine. There's not any risk with it, increased risk. So, but speaking on this today, it's more looking at it going the other direction, where you've done the Valsalva, but now you're holding it for 20 seconds while you're doing these motions. And I would not recommend doing that. I would not recommend holding your breath for that prolonged length of time. For one thing, like I said, your form is going to start to break down. Your body's going to fatigue. It's really difficult to brace for that length of time. Also, it's going to put you at increased risk of passing out because you're running out of air, but also you're going to be more likely at the end of the move, instead of letting out a controlled exhale, just blowing everything out at once. And that's going to cause a sudden blood pressure drop, which is very, very likely going to cause you to black out. Because when you're doing the Valsalva, you're going to be increasing your blood pressure through this movement. And so because you're going to be increasing tension throughout the body. So this increase in blood pressure is beneficial for completing the lift. If you don't do a controlled exhale, you're going to have a sudden drop in blood pressure. So you want to have a controlled drop in blood pressure to come back down gradually. Part of the problem why people, when they finish this lift, exhale suddenly and then you see them pass out, and there's tons of failed videos all over the YouTube and everything else of people doing this. Don't do that. You want to have a controlled exhale. As soon as you're done with the lift, let it out. That's about it. But yeah, I'd say those are the two main things. I'd say if you're doing heavy compound movements, there's no reason for you to be holding your breath for 20 seconds while you're doing it. I would say it's much better, much more efficient to reset each time you do the lift. Take a new breath, reset for the movement. If you're doing, there are types of training, such as hypoxic training, where you're doing hypoxic running, hypoxic swimming, something like that. It just means without air. Where you're intentionally holding your breath for a prolonged length of time. Swimming underwater is an obvious one. If you're swimming underwater, you are most likely doing hypoxic training because we don't have gills. So it's pretty hard to breathe when you're underwater. So there are specific times where hypoxic training can be beneficial and it can actually really help you. If you're doing heavy deadlift, heavy squat, heavy bench, anything like that, I would not recommend holding your breath for a prolonged length of time. I would say do the Valsalva maneuver, complete your rep, let it out, reset, and do it again. So anyways, that's about all for today. Just wanted to do a video on this. I've seen a couple people talking about it, and it seems like a lot of them have some kind of mixed ideas about it. So just wanted to put that out just so everyone can have access to it. So anyways, that's all for today. Just remember to always improve that 1%, and I'll catch you next time.